remix about sweeping.
Greetings and salutations. This is the voice of Loquacious of Herd, bringing you his afterthoughts on My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, Season 6, Episode 9, titled The Saddle Row Review. I heartily suggest that you find and watch the episode itself, sans commentary, before proceeding with either this Afterthoughts review or viewing my full reaction, which is hosted at the link in the description. Be warned, this Afterthoughts review will contain spoilers for the episode. With that out of the way, on to the review. First, I found this episode to be fun and amusing, quite the pleasant little slice-of-life tale to progress the ongoing story of Rarity's growing fashion empire. I am also quite pleased to see that the show is now playing around with different and occasionally more complex styles of storytelling in this season. This episode is set up in a documentary/mockumentary style double flashback, which begins in the present, with 5 of the main 6 rushing to Rarity's boutique in hopes of intercepting the day's newspaper. From their worried banter, we learn that Rarity for You, her Manhattan boutique, has had a successful opening, and that all of the main 6 were involved in it. We also learn that there were some shenanigans involved in said opening, troubles and problems that Rarity has thus far remained blissfully ignorant of. But then, in the aftermath of the grand opening, a newspaper reporter spoke with all of the main 6 and compiled the complete, unfiltered, behind-the-scenes story of everything that went down in the process of getting the doors open. The ponies' attempts to stop Rarity from reading the paper are for naught. Rarity insists on reading it with her friends present. The other ponies' attempts to lower Rarity's expectations for the review, or to prepare her for it, are met with an animation that I'm quite sure will be making the rounds of the fandom. Rarity, it seems, does not like spoilers of any sort. Cue Flashback 1, to the diner where the reporter pony, whose look was clearly inspired by John Jonah Jameson Jr., is one by one interviewing the main 6. A series of quick jump cuts between the interviews clearly establishes the tone each of the ponies took, and, with the exception of Rarity, all of them seem to think that regardless of how the night turned out, the process of getting there was disastrous. Then, the flashback within a flashback. We get to see the action unfold, starting with Rarity and her friend's arrival at the as-yet unfinished boutique, her new store Rarity for You, on the prestigious Saddle Row of shops in Manhattan, that name being a nod to Savile Row, a famous men's fashion street in central London's Mayfair district, happening on the morning of the grand opening. With only hours to work, the place was clearly in need of considerable TLC, lest, as Scootaloo once said, it were to become a totally lost cause. With the episode making wickedly funny and sharp jump cuts between the unfolding story of the horrible and worsening behind-the-scenes mess and the ponies explaining what had been going on to the reporter, things go from bad to worse to very nearly the worst possible thing, and there's more Rarity without her drama couch. But no fear, the dream, as it turns out, wasn't doomed. The ponies eventually hit their stride, overcoming their challenges, and get the place in shape for a truly memorable, and memorable in a good way, opening of Rarity's latest fashion emporium. Even if they had to lock Rarity in the window display for most of it, lest Rarity have a complete nervous breakdown. This slice-of-life tale was on point, quick, funny, full of little jokes, and with so much happening in the backgrounds that it was easy to miss any number of amusing references. These references ranged from the opening pan with the Pulp Fiction ponies, to the various Manhattan staple references tucked into the background of the diner during the different interviews, such as Steve Martin Pony and John Candy Pony reprising their trains, planes, and automobiles roles, to characters from the Mad Men, and so on. And then there were the 3 sales ponies Rainbow Dash interviewed on Rarity's behalf, who looked to have been modeled on, from left to right in their initial appearance, Karl Lagerfeld, Betsy Johnson, and Zandra Rhodes, all important figures in the fashion world. Also, this makes our second pony design nod to Karl Lagerfeld, with the first being Hoity Toity. And plus kudos for having Rainbow Dash take on the interviewer role. After all, as weather manager for Ponyville, she's probably one of the few ponies in the main 6 to actually have some experience with such things. The episode was overflowing with moments of humor whose gem-like brilliance flared to life in scene after scene. Among the more memorable were Twilight's Sweep 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 Dance remix, which, if you've been paying attention to the background music accompanying this review, you should know that the Brony musician community has just taken this idea and run with it, much to my delight. And, of course, Pinky's brief recap of Too Many Pinkie Pies, followed immediately by the revelation that there's another Pinkie Pie out there. Whether they missed a mirror pool clone, or we've just had our second changeling sighting of the season, is unclear and unimportant. It was a brilliantly delivered punchline to the joke. And either way, someone might need to call the Mares of Smile to deal with the situation. As you can tell, I enjoyed the feel of the story of the Saddle Row Review, and it helped continue Rarity the Pony of Fashion's current professional story arc. As always, I'm delighted to see that as the ponies achieve lifelong dreams, such as Rainbow Dash's admission to the Wonderbolts, the Cutie Mark Crusaders getting their cutie marks, Rarity's opening her Canterlot boutique, Twilight Sparkle's graduating in a most spectacular fashion from her studies to grow from the role of student to teacher, this show does not view these ends as ends alone, but as moments of transition, as new beginnings for ever more enjoyable stories. Life, as they say, goes on, and watching it unfold for these characters is always a joy. If you wish to see my full reaction to My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Season 6, Episode 9, titled The Saddle Row Review, the link, as I mentioned earlier, is in the description. Feel free to leave any comments or likes for that reaction here on this Afterthoughts review. And until next time, as always, kindly remember, y'all are awesome. Stay awesome.